We're live.
Okay, so we are back to the kitchen committee's break. We're switching gears, moving to H 930, the absenteeism bill. And we have with us, Greta Dunlap.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, you're coming first, okay. And then we have, Abby Allen.
She's not here yet.
She was just here. Oh, not her yet.
She has one.
Doesn't matter, fine, you're up. Okay.
Hi, my name is Retta Dunlap and I'm with Vermont Home Education Network. I have homeschooled my 4 children. My baby is 37, so it's been a while. And I've been doing this kind of work for over 30 years, watching over homeschooling on the statutory side. I don't do too much to help people homeschool, not anymore. Anyway. So what you should have been handed was graph. So that you can see what the homeschooling numbers have been since 1981. I've been keeping track, and the source of these numbers is the Agency of Education. I don't think they keep this graph, but I do. And just today, they told me.
So I don't mean to sort of announce to you, but just to level set, we're really talking your interest in this bill is section 5.
Oh, I thought you wanted just a quick overview.
No, I did.
Oh,
but
yes,
okay.
yeah, H 930, oh, yeah.
Okay, 930, you're here.
For H 930, oh, yeah.
Talk about section 5.
Oh, yeah.
Or you're the present set.
Yes, no, I definitely
Okay,
will.
and yes, you are doing what I asked you to do.
Okay, good,
So go ahead.
good. Yeah, I will get there in about 5 or 6
Okay,
minutes.
that's fine. Want to set it up.
Okay. So at the top, you said the numbers are not acquired yet. The agency just emailed me the numbers to 2024, and that's 3,096, and then 25-26, it's 4,241. So in the past 3 years, the numbers have been climbing. If you look, COVID was 5,504, and it dropped a little, but it's staying up there after COVID. But I was surprised to see that it was up 4,241. But I just thought you might want to see that, just to see.
I don't see the 4,000.
Okay, I'm sorry. Where it says numbers not yet acquired, or
Oh,
okay, I just got them like 10 minutes ago.
Okay. Okay, so
yeah.
24, 25. You're
Yeah.
saying.
It's like 4,000 and 4,200. Yeah. 3,969 for 24, 25. 4,241 for 25-26. And so about, you're talking about graphs. There's just 3 points that I want to bring up about, graphing homeschooling. So these figures here, these enrollment figures, represent only part of the homeschooling community in Vermont, because some parents do not enroll in 166B, but they're still homeschooling their children. That's a whole different conversation if you ever want to have one. Another point I just want to mention, because you had the Stern Center in here talking about phonics, and now here we're talking about homeschooling and the numbers, as you saw the graph going up. About the time they started whole language in schools, and that went up, was at a time where the numbers in the homeschooling went up with it in the whole country. And it's a correlation. I'm not calling it a causation as to why the homeschooling numbers go up, but I just wanted to note that homeschoolers, almost 100% of them use phonics to teach their children to read. They don't use whole language. The materials that you get for homeschooling just aren't there. And then in these numbers, there are some homeschoolers who do not actually want to homeschool. And so they would prefer to use their local public school, but there are issues going on with the school, with, education, harassment, hazing, and bullying yesterday's. There's reasons they're not using the school, and they want to. And I am old school. I chose to homeschool, was my first and only choice. I did not want to use an institution from moment one. That moment actually occurred in high school. I learned about homeschooling. That's all I wanted to do. But it is heartbreaking for me to hear these parents talk about the stories and experiences they have in a public school. And I want to add, I also hear stories about kids in independent schools. So for me, this isn't about public and in public schools. It's about institutionalized schooling, where you hear these stories. And yeah, there are horror stories and reasons why people quit homeschooling, so it's across the board. So you also wanted to know what the current statute also actually is. So I'm going to describe it to you. In 166B, Section A, the enrollment notice includes several components. It's information about the family, the name of the child, date of birth. Let's see, diagnosis. They want the proof of, if there's a diagnosed disability, they want the proof submitted. And then the parent has to attest or promise that they will do 175 days in the course of study as defined in 16 GSA 906. And they also promise or attest that they will have their child assessed and keep that assessment on file at home. And the statute describes 5 assessment choices that they can choose from. You know, testing, portfolios, GED, that type of thing. So once this enrollment notice is submitted, the child is automatically enrolled in 10 business days. The law also includes a religious exemption. I only know that ever being successfully used once since 1987. And finally, there is at the end of it, the description of an annual notice, which the parents are to send every year and tell the agency it is their intention to continue to provide instruction through a home study program. As I just described it, it's in Section A where they give all this information. So,
Sorry to,
yes.
I have the language, by the way, for the committee, if you just, if you have copies of it. You're referencing. The language from the state, yeah.
Yes. The Section A is, no, this is this all of one?
This is what was in the statute prior to, that was in the.
Right?
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, yes.
It's taken from this, from an old Senate journal, so
See, it's not the whole statute though.
it's what was in the miscellaneous bill from.
Yes, was the amendment to add in the hearings after.
But
Yeah.
you're, right now, you're talking about the requirements.
I'm just talking about the general requirements for homesteading.
Oh, you're in 166A.
Yes, just
Oh.
166A. Yes, 166BA.
We're in 166.
Good.
Okay, so the requirements are, you provide, I'm going to fill out some stuff. It's 5 minutes, you can enroll, it's really quick. But the one thing that I think the Agency of Education is not understanding about the statute that they actually brought to the legislature in 2023 is that they intended that once Section A, the home study notice was given to the agency, the child would be continuously enrolled from that point forward unless the parent withdrew them from the program. This was done this way by Secretary French, Dan French, because that's the way it's done in the public schools. You enroll your child in public schools once and they are never unenrolled unless they're withdrawn. So that, there is no truancy issue unless they're missing days at school. And so this Section A should be filed once. Part of the problem is the agency then says, oh, annually you have to re-enroll. That is incorrect. It's not re-enrollment is not contemplated by the statute for the very reason that technical truancy used to happen to homeschoolers. If the agency didn't get the paperwork reviewed by September 1st, the child was truant because the paperwork wasn't done or the parents were late. They shouldn't be late, but they were still being educated. So that's why that was put into the statute that way. And H 930 addresses the terms absenteeism and attendance. These words don't reflect that a child is actually being educated. It has nothing to do with education. It's are they in the seat? And I'll tell you, every single homeschooling child wakes up in their school. They're never absent. They're always attending. They're always there. So if a parent wakes up in the morning and their child is missing, I suggest they put in a missing child report to the police because absenteeism doesn't occur. It just doesn't. If we're talking about educating kids, that's different.
Okay.
Yes.
I was making sure we were going there because I could have my kids home for a week, or, whatever, I could have a homeschooling allowance and they could wake up in my home, but that shouldn't be counted as 5 days of school unless they are learning based on some
Well-
kind of curriculum, right?
Not exactly. In homeschooling, children are learning 365 days a year. Parents are always using every moment as a learning moment. So they may not go to school on Monday, but they did on Sunday, or they might not homeschool during the day, they only homeschool at night, or they only do, math this week and history next week, or
But do you have to maintain a certain number of hours of each subject over a
No.
certain number of months?
no, it's
Should
100.
that ever exist?
It's 170, well, since 2023, it's 175 days a year, just like the public schools are required to do 175 days a year in school.
And you have to report that you've done. Is that true?
No, you're just attesting and promising that you've done them. The problem with
Do you
doing,
test ahead of time or you test after?
you test at the end of every year.
Okay,
Yes,
Okay.
and you keep that on file at home. I will tell you that when you're homeschooling a child, it takes about 5 hours to do high school, and about 3 hours to do elementary school. You might say, why is that? Well, there's no wasted time like you would have in a school of 100 kids and, 30 in a classroom or 20 in a classroom. It really goes quickly. And I've mentioned this to homeschoolers, how much time does it take for you? And it's almost about the same. Now, there's a lot of things that homeschoolers do. I might do 10 minutes of history at the grocery store, and grandma and grandpa in an evening might fill out another hour. How do you count those things? They go to the child's education, but it's not by hours. I don't even think the schools are required by hours.
so, okay, just because we're having a slightly pressed for time, can you, talk about the language specifically?
Yes.
And by the way, that is helpful information. I'm glad to have it.
Let me see here. So I believe the concern mentioned yesterday was, what happens when you get a report of a child in a home study program? Or, what is that next skip? Because I'll tell you, if we were to mandate, Greta, you have to give us an attendance report. I'll tell you what I would do on September 1st. I would create a calendar. I would check 365 days a year and hand it to you, because that's how many days a year I actually homeschool. So to provide that paperwork, I can make it up. I could make up the assessment. I could do all of those things. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to get at a piece of oversight here that actually has some teeth and does something. And that's where we get to what we did in 2024 here in Senate Ed, where I said, if that's what you want, if you want real and full oversight, then you need to put the hearings after enrollment back into the statute, because that was there before, and it didn't use it very often, but it gave the agency a tool. And right now they do not have a tool. And that's why I am, suggesting we go back and finish or redo the process to put those hearings in, because handing paperwork, it just frustrates everyone.
So you're suggesting that we go back and utilize this language instead of section 5.
Correct. That is exactly what I'm suggesting. Remove section 5 and put in this language. And I do have,
And tell me what is hearings after enrollment mean? So I'm not clear with this.
okay, so a hearing after enrollment, the agency would have to get some kind of report that this home study child isn't being educated, is, not doing something.
And where would that come from?
It could come from anywhere. Now, it does have to be, I believe, as evidence-based. It can't be just a neighbor complaining. And I'll give you an example of something that happened just this past summer, where I'm assuming that this was already in the statute, because I didn't watch the last step to see that it didn't get there. So I got wind of some issue with, the certificate of employment for 15-year-olds. And I called the Department of Labor, because some homeschoolers were complaining they didn't like them asking for their assessment. And I said, I told you, you're supposed to keep it on file at home. They all know it's there. If they ask for it, you need to produce it. Well, it turns out a mom told the Department of Labor, oh, I don't do the assessment, so I don't have one on file at home. Retta's response was to the Department of Labor, well, there's hearings after enrollment in the statute. You should let the department know and say this parent told this to me. And I don't know whatever became of that, but now I know nothing did because it isn't there. So it to me, that's evidence that someone admitted to a state official, they don't do this. And I'm about protecting this for the whole or for all of homeschoolers. So if there's someone not following the law, I would like that looked at. And I think these hearings after enrollments would do exactly that. But handing in an attendance sheet is not going to do anything.
Right, so in some ways, even if we were gonna go with the house language, the right word would not be attendance.
The what?
The right word would not be attendance. The right word would be compliance with the requirements or something like that.
Yeah, and if you look at the language for the hearing, it talks about compliance. If a parent is found to not be substantially complying with the statute,
Yeah.
then that would be considered in the hearing. And
And I guess one question we might have for the agency said they want this in there, although they didn't do it.
They-
It's merged, right?
yeah, no, the agency has never liked the hearings. And I feel for them because yes, sometimes they're hard to do, but at the same time, it's the right tool.
But I saw figures.
So, yeah, I guess maybe a comment and maybe a question that I potentially already know the answer to, but so you're a homeschool advocate requesting that the language that allowed for some degree of oversight that we previously had in law get put back in. Is that okay?
That is correct.
Want to make sure that's good.
Okay,
Yeah, because it, if you said everyone has to hand in attendance sheets, that affects the whole, and the whole didn't not comply. So work with the ones that didn't, because if it gets out that they're calling hearings because you didn't do this, then parents know, and I would of course let them all know, hey, if you don't do this, they can call you to a hearing, and at least the tool is actually there now.
Okay.
Yeah.
that's, I think we have an understanding of that. So we might want you back when we're done.
Mhm.
We want, if it's possible, we'll want you back
Okay.
when we're done too.
I do want to make one comment about, as I was looking over the language this morning, this is the House version, I believe, correct? I think so, yeah. I wanted to ask one question on number 2. So if you look at, go down it's the second from the bottom of the page. I have
Which page? The home study. Or this one?
front page, yeah, we're on that page that Senator Eshing sent out. And number 2 at the bottom, the home study program has substantially failed to provide a student with a minimum course of study. I would want to think about that one because we don't hold the public schools to a level of, since you substantially failed to educate these kids, this is X, Y, and Z is going to happen to. We don't do that because even the Vermont statute does not demand or legislate that children must learn. So I'm a little, I don't want to put parents into the box of they didn't substantially educate their children. Well, maybe their child has special needs, and that. So I just questioned that kind of wording, putting the onus on the child must learn rather than the parent must comply and try. Because 906 of the statute says that public schools, independent schools, and home study programs must supply learning opportunities. Doesn't mandate they educate them in anything. We can talk about whether it should, but if the law does not mandate that the schools or anyone actually teach a child to learn anything, but to provide the opportunities to learn.
Yes.
I find it fascinating, right? I mean, like, my first teacher was my Indian grandmother. I could read and write in cursive by the time I was 3. Like, I understand families can do a lot for their kids. At some point in a institution like a school, there's some kind of proficiency standards that allow a student to move on to the next grade or seek other supports. Those exist, I think, for all of our schools.
Yes,
So is there some metric that would be appropriate for homeschools? Not just that someone's offering learning opportunities, but that a student doesn't turn 16 or 18 and no one has ever assessed their learning capacity and their skills.
okay, so those scores are all presented to parents. It's nice for a school to test, but the purpose is our taxpayers want to know that the kids are learning and the parents want to know that their child is learning. And in a home study program, you have the parent who can see that their child is learning. So the parent is setting the standards, the parent is educating their child, and they want them to read, write, and use
But
math.
we, like, society wants kids until they are of the age of majority to be given what they think every child deserves in a democracy or a society. Like,
That's the parent's choice. And I'll give
Let
my,
her finish, because if we're talking about, they're both are true, right? So, or perhaps, let's just finish this. We actually need to move on, but
yeah, I mean, and like some of us are reading headline horror stories, right? About parents who, teachers had very grave concerns about not seeing that student for health reasons and for potential for neglect, and never had an opportunity then to check back in. And, I read a story as a parent, about a child who died from, child abuse at home, where they were in a homeschooling program. So we all don't want that, right? We want there to be some way to see the child and know that their voices are being heard. They are people.
You have many of those stories actually turn out to where the parents weren't doing any homeschooling. They just kept their kids home and claimed them. And I do, and I always have recognized that parents are parents and they are where they are, and some are good and some are bad. But I also will acknowledge we've got teachers who are good and not good at educating children. I'd also add that our public schools grades right now, they're more not proficient than they are proficient. So no, I don't think that I think that the majority of parents who are homeschooling are doing rather well. The colleges really love getting homeschooled kids. So when you start talking about making statutes, you don't want to be writing statutes that are to the worst case scenarios, because then you get into an area of punishing the whole, and you will get more parents who will not enroll.
With kids, okay, but with
But
kids,
we need to
yeah.
move on. This is something we could go way down for a long time on. We decide if we want to do that. Let's we need to move on.
Yes. What I want is the hearing back in so we could address situations just like this.
Okay.
Because I've had superintendents tell me they called DCF of kids in schools who are being starved at home, or teachers missing that they're being starved at home. And so there is a societal problem here, but you're not going to be able to fix it with the homestead statute, not even for the homestead kids.
Okay, let's leave it for now. We'll have to decide as a committee whether we just want to do a quick pick something or whether we want to guide the next more. So
Thank you.
but that's good for today. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So next we have Abby Allen, Council Director, Central Vermont Career Center.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Allen. I am the School Counseling Coordinator Director at the Central Vermont Career Center. Also behind me are Amanda Payne and Alyssa Noss, who are both school counselors at Montpelier High School. Thank you for this opportunity to testify today on the issue of chronic absenteeism, H930. We appreciate the committee's focus on this important issue, and we would like to offer our assistance in any way that would help. As school counselors, we can play a critical role in addressing this issue. We are in full support of H930. We also appreciate the House including us in the process to develop the model policy, and we hope that you are supporting that language as well. Across Vermont and the nation, chronic absenteeism has risen significantly in recent years. We know that students who are chronically absent, missing 10% or more of the school year, are at greater risk for academic decline, disengagement, mental health challenges, and ultimately dropping out. Attendance is fundamentally about belonging, engagement, and support. Absenteeism is not simply about attendance. It's often a symptom of deeper challenges: anxiety, depression, family instability, transportation barriers, housing insecurity, bullying, academic frustration, or lack of connection to school. School counselors are uniquely trained in mental health support, family engagement, academic planning, and systems level interventions. As student support professionals, we can help in identifying root causes and provide early intervention. When given adequate time to provide direct services to students, school counselors can identify patterns of chronic absenteeism early through data analysis, provide individual and small group counseling to address anxiety, depression, and school avoidance, partner with families to reduce barriers in attendance, collaborate with teachers to create engagement strategies, connect students to community-based services, lead school-wide prevention initiatives that foster belonging and connection, develop strategies to reduce repeat absences, and reduce long-term costs associated with remediation and dropout. Research consistently shows that when students feel connected to at least one caring adult in school, attendance improves. School counselors are often that adult, and when attendance improves, so do academic outcomes. So overall, we're very supportive of this bill as school counselors, and we appreciate the work that has gone into this so far, and just a few thoughts that we would like to share with the committee. First, around prevention. Absenteeism is not solved through punitive measures alone. It is solved through relationship building, early intervention, and coordinated supports. Prevention is more effective and far less costly than intervention after disengagement has already taken root. Every day a student misses school is a lost opportunity. But every day a student feels supported, understood, and connected increases the likelihood that they will return and stay. As school counselors, we are always working with students and families to prevent or curtail absences from happening. In our work with students in schools, we are often confronted with the lack of resources to help prevent absences from occurring. We would be in a much better position to curb truancy if staff and resources are available. Some suggestions, proactive interventions may include our staff for home visits, time to connect with care teams, community resource collaboration, and additional school-based supports. Second is transportation barriers. So based on our experience in Vermont school, we are acutely aware of the number of students who have transportation issues, which can result from homelessness, financial situations, amongst just a few. They should not be penalized if they are not able to get to school. Student records, the next one. Currently, attendance is not always included when students transfer schools. In order to properly track and report attendance data, we should ensure that attendance is included in transferred records. Lastly, clear guidelines. So the model policy should have clear guidelines as to what an excused absence and what is an excused absence. Currently, the bill sets forth a list of what superintendents may excuse, and the model policy for consistency across the state, we suggest that definite list of reasons why an absent would be excused, especially given the possibility of criminal action. Just a couple quick notes, the development of model policy in section 1124. We really appreciate the House committee, including Vermont School Counselor Association, as one of the organizations that can be consulted by the agency in developing the model policy. We ask that your committee support that provision as well. School counselors are uniquely positioned to offer valuable input to the agency's development of the model policy. We are uniquely trained in mental health support, family engagement, academic planning, and systems level interventions. if you can indulge me for about 30 seconds. I know your committee heard testimony from Lisa Plant, a school counselor, in relation to the absenteeism bill about S 265, excuse me. We would like to make the connection between the two bills, and we believe that
Remind us what that one was.
it's a school counselor 80%, 80% direct, 20%
Okay,
indirect. We believe that H 930 would benefit from adding the requirement at least 80% of school counselors' time is spent providing student counseling services. Given that the testimony you've heard and you will hear about chronic absenteeism, the student-centered policy will work towards ensuring that students receive the counseling service they need for academic success. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and for your commitment to Vermont students. Now, any questions?
Yeah, that was a little fast. I'm not really sure what you in the end actually want us to do.
I can go through it again if you'd like me to,
Do-
step by step.
Yeah, give us.
Sure. So I think, one is, we would like to have well, engagement, but in
The
terms
last
of,
page.
oh, I'm sorry, on page number 2.
No. Are you talking about the?
Resource,
Oh,
so
no,
just,
What about a free bills?
oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not.
You're on your notes.
Yes,
right?
I'm on
Yeah.
my notes. I'm not on the bill.
Oh, okay.
I believe this was shared.
Mhm, we have it.
Okay,
right?
okay,
we've
great,
got it.
okay, great,
We-
okay.
We can figure that. out.
Okay, great.
We-
Uh-huh. First is around resources.
have to.
Okay, sorry about that.
We often need a punchline, like.
Yeah.
Have this.
Yes, I understand you guys have a lot going on.
Okay, hang on.
But where you were going, I'm interested in the summary, like what do you want us to do, like,
I
just take
think,
us right to
I
the.
think one big thing is around clear guidelines. Clear gu-
Policy.
Yes, so clear guidelines. Right now, each supervisory union school district superintendent can make a determination of what is excused versus unexcused. And that can make it challenging, especially when students transfer from schools to school. I think the other thing is student records and recommendation around having attendance be included.
So
in
not a requirement or it is? a
It's
requirement?
not currently a requirement,
Make
no.
it a requirement.
To make it a requirement, yes.
And it's required.
Yes.
And then, of course, has to.
Yes.
Got it.
I think just we'll point out too, in terms of the clear guidelines, transportation barriers is certainly a problem that we see across Vermont.
Solution.
That's a great question. So I currently work close to a district that provides no busing for their high school students. And we have students that live anywhere from 0.1 miles to 5 miles away from school. And they are not able to get to school if a parent either is not able to bring them to school, they can't get a ride from a friend, or a parent outright refuses to bring them. There are community partners like Gopher and things like that, but those resources are not always available to every district. Not everyone has funding for that, but certainly high schools that don't provide transportation is a challenge.
Yeah. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, did I just think, are you here for 3:30?
Yeah.
You can come up. Be early.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Jacob Block. I am a senior at Essex High School, an Eagle Scout, and a former legislative page from 2022. I am speaking today in support of adding an amendment to H 931 to require all Vermont schools to close on Veterans Day, starting in the 2027-2028 school year. So not next school year, but the one after that. And this is important to me because my mom served in the Vermont Air National Guard for over 2 decades. So the sacrifices veterans make have additional significance to me. Every year on Veterans Day, there are so many events here in Vermont that commemorate veterans. Barry, Bennington, and St. Albans all hold parades. Burlington has a yearly service at Battery Park, and 5 state college campuses hold recognition events. This is just a short list. There are so many, I couldn't fit all of them, fortunately. And most students are unfortunately, including myself, not able to attend these events because we're in school. Similarly to Martin Luther King Day and Memorial Day, I believe students should have Veterans Day off and be encouraged by their schools to spend the day out in the community honoring veterans. And this is not only important to allow students to be out in the community, but it would also align us with our neighbors in the Northeast. Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and New York all already have Veterans Day off, so this would provide consistency across state lines. And the reason I'm here is I have previously worked with my local school district to have ours be one of the first in the Champlain Valley to have Veterans Day off. But while many school officials have supported this idea, it has ultimately failed because the regional calendar disincentivizes any one school district to act alone out of respect to all the other school superintendents in the district. And this proposed amendment ensures that every student, regardless of school district, town, or zip code, has Veterans Day off to honor those who have fought so hard for all of our freedoms, to honor those who have currently served and have served. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Yes.
So what'd your mom do?
She was in the Air National Guard.
Delaware National Guard, this was.
She worked, down in Northfield,
Okay.
and recently retired.
What was your mom's name?
Robin?
I think I met her.
Okay.
She started out, I want to say she started out in auto repair, did she, maintenance?
I think she was mostly admin, but not quite sure.
So good testimony. Thanks for coming in. There's 3 out of the 6 are veterans, so we get it. But when you're talking about holidays, there's always a fixed, and from a business perspective, there's always a fixed number of holidays in a year. Okay, right now we're using all of them. Which one, if we recognize Veterans Day as a holiday, which current holiday would go away? That's the hard question.
Thank you for your question, and I think there are 2 possible solutions for this. I think one that my school district, since we currently have a week off and Thanksgiving, I think we could shorten that break to only being Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. From the teachers I've talked to, they don't seem to mind shortening that break. And for the districts that already have a 3-day break off, I think they could add a day in the summer and work to realign their schedules, and I don't think that would be too much of a challenge for them, given planning time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Very good job.
And have you talked with other schools beyond the ordinance about this idea? Out with the or other school districts, superintendents, or whatever?
I have only talked to my school superintendent because I didn't, out of respect to him, I didn't want to feel that I was overstepping his boundaries and going somewhere where I shouldn't. But speaking to him, he said that there were no prevailing concerns that he could recall about having the day off when he met with the regional superintendents.
Yes.
So, I mean, I really appreciate you coming and bringing this to us. I'm the granddaughter of a veteran, and I think, you know, one of the things we should be concerned about as a society is that we're losing touch with our veterans. We don't know as many veterans in our personal lives, and we feel, you know, pretty distant from veterans, especially of foreign wars. Do you see? I think some may say, you know, that there might be more opportunities for schools to do more to bring Veterans Day onto campus, you know, rather than anticipate that students will go to a Veterans Day observance in their community. Any thoughts on that?
I think that I understand the argument, and I've talked to a lot of students, and a lot of them I've asked them, they don't even know the month that Veterans Day is in. And part of that is schools can do better at teaching, but I also think if you have the day off, I ask and say, hey, why do we have this day off? And then normally somebody answers and say, hey, it's this Hindu holiday, it's this Buddhist holiday. And then I learn about it more that way. So I think by having it as a day off, it's not just a normal day for students. And of course, there are some kids who are going to just spend that day at home playing video games. I understand that that happens with every holiday, but I think having this day off gives people that opportunity to be out in their community honoring veterans.
There, I was gonna say, like, I'm sure this doesn't fly with school districts. I honestly have no idea, but because it is kind of the 11th hour of the 11th day, I wonder if it could be more so required that that particular time period, like a half day or that hour or something, be set aside for Veterans Day, and maybe veterans come to the school.
I think that schools can still honor Veterans Day even with Veterans Day off. Like with Memorial Day, that day is a day where we don't have school, but people still know the last Monday in May is always Memorial Day. They know about it. People go to parades. And I think Veterans Day can be similar in how people recognize it out in the community on the day, but learn about it the day before or after in schools.
Yeah, thanks for coming in and raising this. I think Senator Robbins, that was right in the ball. It would actually take us a lot of testimony to be able to do this, which we frankly don't have time for this year. It's just a reality of the legislative schedule. But I know this committee all feels strongly about that day is, especially when I was here in my 20s and 30s, I always voted against making it a 3-day weekend. I thought Metro Station fall in advance to not have turned into a Chamber of Commerce holiday. So I was voting against moving it from the 11th, just fell where it fell. That's the holiday, that's the day, but that's changed. So I guess that's why I'm saying I think it's special too, and I think it's important. So I think, but you've raised the issue, and there's the one approach here, the share approach. But I think you're reminding us that it actually matters. It's really a good message, a good reminder. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I wanted to try and come in this year since next fall I'm going to be off in college, so.
Yeah.
Completely new world.
No, I'm glad, and frankly, because at least in part because you're a high school student and you care enough to want to come in, we make the time for you because we want to actually want to be here for you. We always try to do that with students. And you're coming to us with something. And actually, by the way, you picked the right vehicle. You're right. Because miscellaneous bill is a place that actually worked. I don't know how you figured that out, but you did.
The cell phone policy.
Okay. Because that was that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good for you. But Senator.
So something like that, if it doesn't get tacked on to a miscellaneous bill, if you're a senior, you're leaving for college,
Yeah.
but you can still go to your representative or your senator and ask them to put the bill in at the beginning of the biennium.
Well, you're going far away.
I'm going down to DC, George Washington.
Okay. Okay.
Congratulations.
May turn in.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. You can still help us. You can still keep this on. And with your again with your senator, that work. Well, your senator. Well, thank you. Yeah, anybody else? Yeah,
Thank you.
I think those issues that Senator Weeks raised are some of the ones we have to get thought through, and then what school administrators think about how it fits in, all kinds of, but topics that's inaudible. So
If I could just say, so I don't forget, or if we ever take this back up, I think sometimes about Act One and teaching diverse perspectives and identities, and it's now a pretty widely held acknowledgement in colleges, at least, that veterans, need to be given all the tools in the toolbox to be supported and feel, fully a part of the community. And that they have a lot of metrics that otherwise should concern us, about feeling marginalized or, not being able to find a path back to success. So, it's been really important in a lot of our higher ed institutions in Vermont to make veterans feel more celebrated and supported, and maybe should be consideration for Act One. Someone's gonna yell at me about that, but they are a protected class for a reason.
well, it's good to have the last week back in the State House. We got a
Nice to be
new
back.
group of pages in, the last group of pages in this week.
Thank you for your
Yeah.
time.
Thank you, Jake. Thanks. So.
Don't forget to come back after you get your education.
So we actually have a few minutes here. I think we can back up in it. At 3:45. Yes. Okay. So if we can go